r/AskReddit by Reddify. What is something that absolutely disgusts you, but the majority seems to be okay with? Removed. While I don't think it's the majority everywhere, but it is here in the south, giving soda/pop to children. Fat little 2-year-old swilling Mountain Dew at Walmart. I die a little on the inside. My sil used to give her son Red Bull in his sippy cup. He was 1 1/2. She couldn't understand why I flipped out and ripped it away from him when I found out. Oh my, Red Bull. I used to be with a woman who had adult children, who had children of their own. She'd insist on giving soda to the grandbabies in their sippy cups and bottles, ages 1, 5. It ain't gon' hurt theme. One time there was an empty soda can on the coffee table, and 3 of the little monsters fought over it, all trying to drink whatever drops were left at the bottom. A screaming, crying, whining, toddler Royal Rumble. They were addicts. It was depressing. But if you feed them Red Bull when they're young enough, they grow wings. Those are tumors. It's not a tomato. Plastic packaging everywhere, even on fruit and vegetables. Edit. Oh, some kind stranger popped my golden cherry when little Timmy found the fruit and bought himself a pear. It didn't wear a plastic suit, and Timmy didn't care. I'm sure it's still as sweet, he said, or crisp and quick to clean. I'll only peel the skin instead and eat the stuff between. He laughed a laugh of deep delight. He sighed a sanguine sigh. He picked his pear and took a bite. He didn't fucking die. New line. Timmy lives. When parents constantly complain about and resent their children because of the things they have to do for their children as a parent. You had to provide food for the child you brought into the world. You had to make lunch. No way. How horrible. How dare they require you to provide them food? Probably should have considered the needs of a child before you had one. I take care of my kids. You supposed to, you dumb mother. Chris Rock. When I was little, my big brother defended my parents and said, what? You think it's mom and dad's job to take care of you? And I was like, yes. Edit. I don't remember what we were arguing about, or if we were arguing at all. I was like 5y/0. I wasn't necessarily abused nor spoiled. I didn't actually say anything back. I knew better than that he would have kicked my ass and punished me. I remember just thinking to myself, if you decide on having kids, then it's your responsibility for blah blah. Like WTF you talking about, bro? That's all I remember, and decided to share it here. Yeah. It's taken me having my own kids where I realized my parents were really fucking awful people. You want credit for doing the bare minimum. If that, fuck off. There were plenty of times I had to wear dirty clothes, eat spoiled/no food, or otherwise live in filthy conditions. Basic needs rarely met. But hey, you changed my diapers and did your best. So that should count for something. Right? Once I had kids, any sympathy for how hard it was for my parents went right out the fucking window. They may have done their best, but it wasn't good enough. Yep. Once you have kids you realize that some people's parents did their best and other parents did as little as they could get away with. Personally, I grapple with the two depending on whether or not I'm writing a Mother's Day card. Yeah. There's definitely a market for Mother's Day and Father's Day cards that say I acknowledge your existence. Thanks for nothing. Not cleaning up after yourself in public. My son would ask me why we took our things to the garbage at the movies when everyone else seemed to just leave it. I'd say because we can, and we are not animals. I think he appreciated it more when he started working at a movie theater cleaning up after the filthy messes. It's part of the service I've paid for. No, you're a self-entitled ass. I know people who have this attitude about going to McDonald's. They call themselves a restaurant, so that includes cleaning up the tables. No. Gotta justify shitty behavior somehow. Smokers dropping cigarette butts anywhere and everywhere. And if you dump your ashtray out on the street while you are stopped at a light, you're an asshole squared. I have friends and relatives who would never drop a paper napkin or cup on the sidewalk, but think nothing of dropping a butt and stomping it out. They're trash. Duckwords. Edit. I was obviously very wrong to think that the majority seems to be okay with this. Thanks for the gold, amigo. And second amigo. Edit. Third gold. Thank you friend. Holy moly. This morning I had about 22,000 comment karma. Now 15,000 plus 41 comment. Ex-army guy here. Picked up smoking in the army. Great way to keep mosquitoes away. At the same time, learned how to field strip a cigarette. So that you break it apart, so that it will decompose easier, and not leave such a mess. I always thought, if you really wanted to go after tobacco companies in the US, hit them with the disposability issue. The same way we went after other products with carcinogens. It kills me to see people throw lit cigarettes out of a moving car. That's the worst. Military history bonus round. So field stripping became part of the US military field doctrine back in WW2. Cigarettes have always been the unofficial currency of the military. We even had them included in our rations. The US Navy was able to sink a U-boat in 42-43, and part of the debris was crates filled with hundreds of cartons of cyanide-laced counterfeit American branded cigarettes. The idea was to circulate the poison for e-cigarettes, so that civilians would of course die, and would beware of Americans bearing gift cigarettes. Field stripping was a simple way for preventing an intact sample of an American cigarette from falling into enemy hands. I was always instructed to shred and bury the butts. If you stub it out and drop it. If you leave without a care. Then I wish that you would stop it. Cause it isn't fucking fair. Contemplate a second. Sucker. As you're old enough to know, you're a selfish motherfucker when you leave that shit below. So collect the stub behind you. If you care at all to try. Or I'll come and fucking find you. And I'll jam it in your eye. New line. Chris Brown. Thought it was also quite funny how he's often mentioned with people like Justin Bieber. Like, I wouldn't say Justin Bieber is a perfect person or hasn't done bad things, but Chris Brown is on a whole other level. Hey, you just made me realize that it's been ages since Justin Bieber did something douchey and made everyone talking about it say, can we stop talking about it while bringing it up endlessly? Maybe it's finally over. Edit, to bring back people talking about Justin Bieber. Just celebrate not talking about Justin Bieber. I regret everything. I do not, and never will, care if he does douchey things. I just don't want to hear him brought up by people who claim to dislike him. Apparently, the Comedy Central roast of Bieber was intended to be a bit of a reset in his career. It was like a rhyme cool with the jokes about being awful. I agree I've been awful message. And it allowed him to restart and focus on being an adult, because he's not an immature kid growing up in the limelight anymore. The creator of Comedy Central roasts was on NPR talking about it. Very interesting interview. Didn't Bieber, at the end of the roast, say something about realizing that he's been a shithead and wanting to do better? It feels like it was a few years ago when I watched the roast. It also feels like a few years ago that he did anything douchey. Yeah. It was super cringy and didn't appear genuine at all, but to his and their credit it seems to have worked. Texting and driving. The amount of people with blatant disregard for human life is disgusting. It's seriously like 50% of people I see on the road. Aggressive driving. I like driving fast as much as the next guy, but don't be a dick to other drivers. You want to do 100 in a clear lane. That's up to you. If the lane isn't clear, especially if someone is already doing at or above the speed limit, and there isn't room for them to move over, pulling up 2 feet off their bumper and trying to drive them like cattle is a dangerous dick fucking move. Could not agree more. I live in a highly populated city and have a 35-minute commute down the interstate. It's ridiculous how many people think that cruising 18 inches behind someone who is already going 68 in a 60 and can't go any faster will somehow make everyone just magically get out of there. It's disgusting just how many people drive dangerously, especially considering it's going to get you there what, 90 seconds sooner? So glad the police influence in this area is especially heavy on that highway. I strongly prefer to just set cruise control at about 2 above the speed limit and coast in the right lane. But these asshole drivers that don't consider any else make it incredibly hard. People ignoring the majority seems to be okay with part. Sort by controversial in these types of threads for the real answers. Dear Reddit, what is your favorite not popular thing? Please be sure to upvote each of your favorite not popular things. This will ensure the most popular not popular things get to the top. This is why/r/music never worked. The songs everyone has heard and gotten tired of outcompeted everything else. D. This little gem called Queen. My friends who are both dog owners always have sex with their dogs in the bed. IDK just weird to me. Edit. While their dogs are in the bed, good god, I gave the grandma Nazis a good time with this one. Edit 2. I know this because they were telling a story about how their dog got in their way having sex one time, and I was like, WTF, that's weird. And then they said they always do it with their dog in the bed. The other couple with us said they did too. GF and I were like, that's weird as duck. My friends who are both dog owners always have sex with their dogs. TTH. In the bed. Woo. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to have sex with your dogs, at least do it in the bed like a civilized human being. How most of the hits on the radio romanticize binge drinking and prescription drugs. I recently came to the realization that I'm alcoholic, and I started noticing this everywhere. Songs about passing out from drinking and taking care of people that have had too much, as if it's a totally normal bonding experience. It bothers me even more to know that the pop station's main audience is probably in middle/high school. Alcoholism, if not vigilantly monitored, can ruin every aspect of your life. Unchecked, you can lose literally everything, including your life. Edit. I mean that I started noticing the constant references to alcohol because I'm more aware of my own exposure to temptation. I'm not saying that the radio is making kids become alcoholics, only that it romanticizes unhealthy substance use. I'm all for casual/responsible drinking, but maybe it's not so good that out adolescents are constantly hearing about drinking till you puke or blackout. After a heavy night of drinking, I was lying in bed and put on my Spotify country station to try to fall asleep. It was then I realized how many country songs were about alcohol. The last thing I wanted to hear about. There was a country song playing on the radio this morning at the restaurant I usually get coffee at. One of the main verses something like, some folks say I got a drinking problem, but I call it a solution, and ain't no problem for me. Not sure that's the best message to be pushing at 6 in the morning. Make sure to like and subscribe so we can watch together.